Bobby, thumbs up from him on pole position. Jamie Campbell-Walter alongside him. And Ian Flux, the championship leader, third, with Rod Gretton in the staringly pink car alongside him in fourth on the grid. Well, interestingly, Gretton has laid good money that he will be first into the first corner in this race. Well, he's thinking about starting before the red lights go to green. Away he goes, we'll ride with him. He's past Campbell-Walter. Oh, and fluffs it. First to fourth, can't find second, can't find third. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Rod Gretton loses a bundle full of places and a pocket full of fivers at the same time. What a disappointing start. And he nearly made it as well. The leader, though, oh, look out, that's Ian Flux right behind the leader, Bobby Burden-Rowe. The rearward facing camera, the ideal position on Burden-Rowe's car, since he has been the front runner in this championship in the last 9 races. And unbelievably, Ian Flux is waving to him. Hello, goodbye, or maybe thank you for giving me enough breathing room to actually complete the manoeuvre. I'm not quite sure whether that was a little sarcastic wave or genuine appreciation of some thoughtful driving. But whatever, Flux leads it from Burden-Rowe. Campbell-Walter in third place. And right behind him, Phil Hindley, and then Rod Gretton. So Gretton picking up places again. Phil Hindley there in the silver car, hounding Jamie Campbell-Walter. But look at this, coming back down inside Gretton is Ian McKellar. McKellar started behind him on the grid. Gretton had only just managed to work his way up into fifth, and McKellar now disposes of him in one fell swoop. So here come the leaders then, the 2 white cars, Flux and Burden-Rowe, Campbell-Walter third, Hindley fourth, and then our cameraman chasing down McKellar. Well, Flux leading at the moment, and he led an awful lot of early series races, but in the last 9 races of the championship, don't forget this is round 10, Burden-Rowe has won 6 races to date and finished second in the other 3 that he didn't win. So Bobby Burden-Rowe has had a very, very strong season indeed, and is now really the man on form. Oh dear, slightly out of sorts, number 34, Matt Doman. He started 15th on the grid, just behind Martin Short, or a row behind Martin Short, and exiting Old Hall in not the approved conventional manner. I don't think the Racing Drivers School will give him many top scores for that one. So the leaders heading down to Shell Oils. Rod Gretton is too, staying out to the left on the brakes. Too far out to the left though, he's left the door open. Oh, and Colin Blower comes up inside. Gretton spins, now he's bounced up onto the grassy bank on the inside, and that's quite a drop for a TVR off the inside. So he turns it round, trying to find a way back onto the track, and cars streaming by him all the time. That's a shame for Rod Gretton. Headlights ablaze on Bobby Burden-Rowe and Jamie Campbell-Walter's cars. Campbell-Walter very close indeed to the tail of Burden-Rowe. The 2 hyphens battling it out for second place. Ian Flux, no escape for him though. And Flux is struggling with a problem here. Rod Gretton trying to pick up places now, has rejoined. Running down towards the Knickerbrook chicane. Slips down inside number 12. Picks up the place from John Reed. And just ahead of him is the 21 of Martin Crass. There he goes, chasing Crass as hard as he can. So as I mentioned, Ian Flux struggling with a problem from the opening lap of the race. He felt the back end of the car starting to move around a little bit, and gears very hard to come by for Flux. In actual fact, after the race, the team would find that his differential housing had started to work its way loose on the car, and as a result, the gearbox and rear axle moving around, and that making life very difficult indeed for him. Riding now with Phil Hindley in 5th place, chasing down the lead quartet. Oh, Giles Cooper down the grass, the yellow car on the inside there, and is that Matthew Were, the 99 car, the red car with the yellow wheels. Styrofoam corner markers all over the place. Cars going over the grass on the inside and on the outside. Rod Gretton with his hand up, Martin Crass has as well. Gretton going down the escape road at the bottom of Cascades, around the short track here, in fact, at Oulton Park. We'll have to wait a moment or two for the rest to catch up. Well, the leader's still racing, but no, a hand out to the cockpit. Campbell-Walter just arrives there as Gretton comes through the chicane, has no idea what on earth is going on. Sticks his hand out to the cockpit to let the car behind know that he's slowing down. Well, there is Matthew Were walking away. The These TVRs may have light fiberglass bodywork, but boy, are they strong underneath. Hand out to the cockpit as well for Ian Flux. Well, now, what was that? Was he waving Bobby Verden-Rowe through, or had he seen something that Verden-Rowe hadn't? Well, no flags at the marshal's post. Flux seems to be waving again as they come to the line, though. The green and yellow squared flag is out. That means assume a pace car situation, slow down, stop racing. We want to clear up the mess. And there is the mess that they will be clearing up. And the drivers, the race continues incidentally, but the drivers at a very slow pace while the marshals get on with the vital work of clearing the track. There is the sorry sight, the TVR Tuscan of Matthew Wurr being towed off the track, and after 3 slow laps, drivers weaving to bring some heat into the tyres as Bobby Verden-Rowe leads them around to resume racing. This time they get the green flag. So Bobby Verden-Rowe leads from Ian Flux, Jamie Campbell-Walter in third. Then there is McKellar and Hindley. The slippery surface markers are out at Old Hall Corner, just to remind everybody of the amount of dust and debris out on the circuit. Riding again with Phil Hindley. He's in 5th place, the silver nose car at the back of this crocodile. But now, just before the race suspended situation, Bobby Verden-Rowe had sneaked past the leader Ian Flux. Flux in some mechanical problems, now waves past Jamie Campbell-Walter. Through 2 goes Ian McKellar. Flux knows that every place he gives away takes points away from him and allows Bobby Verden-Rowe to close more in the championship, but it is vital that Flux at least try and finish this race if he can. Any points at all are better than losing them with a bad handling car in an accident while racing somebody. So he's already waved Phil Hindley through. Flux is now down to 5th place. Our cameraman Rod Gretton is right behind him, but Rod Gretton used a shortcut around the circuit and actually has not done the full distance of the race. Well, Simon Harris here won't get to do the full distance either. In fact, 3 drivers, Rod Gretton, Dennis Leach and John Reed, all went down the short Foster's Loop after the accident that befell Matthew Wurr, Peter Wheeler, that resulted in the pace car style situation, and they have all been doctor laps, although they seem to be well up the order. There they are, in fact, or there at least is the number 2 machine of Rod Gretton. He is in effect a lap down. Well, riding again with Ian Flux, plunging down the hill into Cascades. And Flux holding on now for all he's worth. Bobby Verden-Rowe with a couple of car lengths advantage. Right behind him though, and always a threat, is Jamie Campbell-Walter. Looking back from Verden-Rowe's machine. There goes Campbell-Walter, extreme left of the picture. Ian McKellar looking very, very feisty indeed behind him. McKellar can sniff a chance of moving right up the order here. Oh, and a big, big lock-up. And into the tyres. He didn't save it. Well, that was the number 14 we saw going down the grass earlier, Giles Cooper, after the collision that involved Matthew Wurr, and I wonder whether perhaps there's a legacy of that earlier incident in there. Jamie Campbell-Walter has just lost 2nd place, and Rod Gretton, unaware of his penalty, has eased his way, well, shouldered his way perhaps past Ian Flux. In actual fact, at the end of it, that won't be another position lost for Fluxy. But Flux still fighting his car all the way through this race. 61, Richard Martin, carried our camera earlier on in the race. And there is Matt Doman, who we saw disappearing off backwards right at the beginning of the event. So Jamie Campbell-Walter now down to 3rd place, Ian McKellar ahead of him. McKellar has dealt with Campbell-Walter. What can he do about Verden-Rowe? Could it be that with Flux striking problems, Verden-Rowe will not win this race? I'm sure Bobby would like to think otherwise. Ian Flux fighting hard with Colin Blower. Blower won the qualification race, don't forget. Started 7th on the grid for this main race as a result. Blower looking to pick up positions. Hasn't been the greatest of championship seasons for him, of the many that he's done in TVR. But things have been getting better in the last couple of rounds. McKellar very, very late indeed on the brakes, and that will not have helped him at all. Bobby Verden-Rowe laying big black stripes from those rear Dunlop slicks as he spins them up, using all the horsepower that the thundering V8 of these TVRs has got to offer. So a very untidy entrance into the corner from Ian McKellar has not helped his efforts at all. He's got the headlamps on. Well, Bobby Verden-Rowe's already got his on, and I don't think Bobby will be outpsyched by a headlamp or two. Jamie Campbell-Walter still very close to McKellar though, and McKellar will have to watch his step. Phil Hindley in 4th place, a little bit lonely on his own here, 3 seconds away from the 3rd place battle. Oh, here comes Matt Doman. Will he find room? Just finds room to go down the inside of John Reed in the number 12 car, but the TVR engineer was a lap down anyway, so he almost needn't have bothered. Here's the checkered flag, and Bobby Verden-Rowe wins his 7th race of the series from Ian McKellar and Jamie Campbell-Walter. Ian Flux only 6th here, and that allows Verden-Rowe to close to 23 points from the leader as they go to the next round. The tight and twisty circuit of Mondello Park just outside Dublin, the venue for the 11th round of the TVR Tuscan Challenge. Because of the size of the field and the small size of the track, the competitors have qualified as usual in 2 groups. The first group will race here, the second group will race in race 2, and then they will all be put together for race 3, God help them. Colin Blower alongside Bobby Verden-Rowe. There is Verden-Rowe, the familiar white and blue machine, some half a second quicker than Blower in qualifying. Blower nearly stalls it as he tries to avoid jumping the start, following Bobby Verden-Rowe away from the line with Chris Lord, the number 43, the yellow machine there. Colin Blower slips in ahead of him. Lord started 3rd on the grid. Alongside Lord is Ian Flux. That's a great start from Flux. He started in 7th place, picked up 4 spots in the couple of 100 yards down to the first corner. Well, some impressive getaway that was. Bobby Verden-Rowe leads them then around this undulating Mondello Park circuit. It rises, climbs, dives and falls through this grassy Irish scenery. A very tight track though for these big monsters, the TVRs, and Ian Flux really charging hard. In 5th place at the moment and looking to take 4th. Goes around the outside and then tries to chop to the inside of Chris Lord. Well, Lord trying to hold on, but Flux is up into 4th place, being followed through by Phil Hindley. Phil Hindley gunned away from the start, but dropped by Ian Flux, and here we are now chasing those two with Chris Lord. So Lord from 3rd on the grid, all his qualifying efforts to naught as he goes back down the order, and Hindley goes down inside Flux. This is the real overtaking manoeuvre on the circuit at the end of the main straight. No chance here, wheels pouring the air as they drop down out of that left-hander, and Flux coming back at him now. Flux through the inside, goes past under braking, and again onto the brakes for this right-hander. Powering away up the hill goes Ian Flux, the championship leader coming into this race. Doesn't want to let Bobby Verden-Rowe get too far ahead, nor does Colin Blower, mind you. Steve Cole behind him. Grant Tromans on the back of this pack. So through they stream. There is Tromans, the familiar Dayglow yellow colours. And ahead of him is Gavin Cooper, the number 9 machine. Ian Flux under pressure from Phil Hindley in no uncertain terms. Flux 3rd, Hindley 4th. 5th place at the moment for Chris Lord. And then 6th and 7th for Cooper and Tromans. Down into the first right-hander, and a chance now for Chris Lord, if he hadn't missed that gear a little there, to make a lunge at Phil Hindley. But even as we watched there on board Phil Hindley making a mistake, so too did our cameraman. Bobby Verden-Rowe starting to ease away now. The stopper in the bottle here is Colin Blower. Steve Cole behind looks to be a little quicker, and so certainly does Ian Flux, and probably Phil Hindley as well. But Colin Blower doing a very good job of holding them all up, keeping them away from the tail of Bobby Verden-Rowe. Verden-Rowe, of course, thankful for that, I'm sure. Onto the straight again, rushing down, powering through the gears. Flux looking to make a move if he can. Look at the margin that Verden-Rowe has opened up. Flux has to go wide, no chance to move down the inside. So Ian Flux very definitely bottled up, not having to worry too much about Phil Hindley for the moment. Phil Hindley doesn't quite seem to have the speed of this second place battle. Blower, Cole, Flux tied together, and then Phil Hindley a few car lengths back, just about safe from Chris Lord in the yellow car. Puff of smoke again from the locking tyres as Bobby Verdenroe really pushes this hard, trying to build up an advantage now so he can get to mid-distance and then ease back. Ian Flux still diving around behind Steve Cole. Flux very close, a little bit out of shape coming onto the main straight. That shouldn't have him too close to Cole. Cole guarding the inside line. He knows that if he moves too far to the left on the straight there, Flux will be down the inside, trying to make sure there's no room for him. With the thundering horsepower from the AJP V8s in these cars, they lap this circuit very, very quickly indeed. Qualifying laps in the 56-second margin, and race laps here just hundredths over a 1 minute. But unfortunately for cars this size, even with the reasonably long braking distances that the TVR Tuscans have, it is a very tight, twisty circuit at Mondello. It's very much like an Oulton Park that shrunk in the wash. Fantastic corners, very demanding for the drivers. Really great fun, I'm sure, when you're out front like Bobby Verdenroe. But for Ian Flux here, ultimately very, very challenging and very frustrating. So Verdenroe still in sight. Flux can see him flashing ahead in the distance, I'm sure. Ian Flux now very close indeed to Steve Cole. The dark blue car ahead of him. Still, they whistle round the circuit here. Flux darting all over the road, desperately trying to find a way past. Only 12 short laps to do it in. 12 minutes and a few more seconds. Maybe even less. So a very brief race for these two qualifying races, effectively, for the first qualifying group here and for the second one later on in the day before they all get together for the main race. And if Flux is frustrated here, imagine what drivers in the lower reaches of the top 10 will be like with the entire field on the track for the main race. Grant Troman's now past the number 9 machine of Gavin Cooper, picked up a place, so it's evidently possible to pass. At the moment, though, Ian Flux with the vastly experienced Steve Cole ahead of him, and Cole with the equally experienced Colin Blower in front, all finding it very hard to move on. Phil Hindley just can't keep in touch with this group, though. You would have thought with all the battling between them, he should be right with it, but although he's safely ahead of 43 Chris Lord, he just can't stay with them. Riding with Lord now, following Phil Hindley onto the main straight once more. Blower leading them down. Flux still darting around, looks to the outside. He's clearly trying to chop across to the inside and get a better run out of the corner, give himself better drive out of the corner, but all to no avail, getting nowhere. Nigel Tuscan there, number 11, trying to work his way up in that tail end group. Only the 12 cars on the track here, still seeming fairly busy. Now Ian Flux is really pushing hard to make a move. He's got his nose alongside the rear wheel of the car ahead. Steve Cole just holding the line, knows that Flux will have to run wide and ease off the throttle a fraction, make him go the long way round. It's the only way possible. And still Flux really tearing into this battle. Just a little touch there as he gets onto the power very early indeed, coming through the corner. Out he comes. His headlamps must be starting to bubble up the paintwork on the back of Steve Cole's car. He's so close here. Cole just betraying how close to the limit they are there. Another puff of tyre smoke, and Bobby Verdenroe already in among the slower cars. Well, safely passed for Colin Blower, but now comes the crunch for Steve Cole. This is pressure, slower car ahead, and Ian Flux right on his bumper behind. And somebody rejoining there. Steve Cole avoids him, and again Ian Flux tries to go around the long way. Steve Cole really under pressure now. Those lockups becoming bigger and bigger, and Flux makes a move. Oh dear! Disaster! Flux gets hooked up on Steve Cole's rear end. The splintering fiberglass of the bodywork makes it look much more dramatic than it was. Gestures from Cole, what are you doing? Well, that took them out of it, and Bobby Verdenroe romping home to victory from Colin Blower, Phil Hindley, Chris Lord, Gavin Cooper and Grant Tromans, the top six. Disaster for Ian Flux, the championship leader. Very, very early on the power here, trying to find a way past Cole, but instead his front wheel mounts Steve Cole's rear wheel. The two cars locked together. Very odd incident. It'll be many months before we see anything like that. Victory then for Bobby Verdenroe in his first race. And Ian Flux failing to score. So there are the top six. The start for race 2 of the TVR Tuscan Challenge, 11th round here in Ireland at Mondello Park. Martin Short on pole position, the lime green car. Jamie Campbell-Walter, Matt Doman and Tim Hood next up. Looking back from Short's car, there's Matt Doman. Good start from Short, good start from Doman, but Campbell-Walter ahead already. Great start from here. Ian McKellar with the